Hello everyone, and welcome back to Revit Snippets. Great tips you can learn in just a few minutes. Let's see today how we can create this folding door family in Revit. It's fully parametric. If I now select it here, I can simply go to Properties and change the number of panels. Right now it's 5, but I can take it down to even 2. That makes it into 2 panels, or I can go all the way up to 9. And as soon as I do so, you can see the annotation of the stacked panels to the side will update accordingly. If I change it to maybe 7, it's gonna do it, or maybe 5, just like before. I have also added a few other parameters that will be useful. So if I go to Type Properties now, as you can see, materials can be changed for frame and panel, as well as some other dimensions. Most importantly, the door height. If I now take this to 2.5 meters, apply this, you can see the whole thing there has updated. Or if I want to make it a bit wider, how about 5 meters? Apply this now, and the whole thing is now 5 meters wide. Of course, that means maybe I will need more panels here to span the entire 5 meters. Super easy to do. Just go to here now and maybe take it up to 7. And it will do everything else for you. If you need this door, watch this video in full to see how to make it yourself. Or you can also download this family using the link in this video's description. By the way, this video is brought to you by CAD File Explorer, the easiest way to see, manage, and clean up CAD files in Revit. Get your free copy today by following the link in this video description. Alright, let me show you now how to make this door from scratch. We can choose New Family now. Select a good template. In this case, let's start with Metric Door. And then open it. This template has a few things in it already. If I go to 3D now, and maybe turn off dimensions just for a moment. Hide it by category. You have here the outer frame and the internal frame. Both of these we can now select and delete, because we will create our own frames quickly. Before that, however, let's create first the family for one single panel, because later on we will try to copy it across this opening. So to get the panel created, let's go to New Family again. And this time we can go for Generic Model. Open the second template. And in here, I will drop in here just quickly a second reference plane. The distance from here to there, let's make it into a dimension like that, and turn that into a new parameter. I can call this one now panel width, obviously, and it should be a type parameter. Press OK to confirm. And now if I switch just quickly to the front elevation now, we can drop in here a second reference plane to define the height of this panel family. So the distance from this new plane to this existing one in the family template, I can now dimension that as well and call that a new parameter name like height. Type parameter again, that's correct. Let's do OK. So now let's start creating some actual geometry for this family. We have the frame set out already, so I'll just go to Create and choose Extrusion. I can now do pick lines with the lock button selected. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And now trim the lines to make a closed loop. Just like this. Make sure when you select each of those lines, there's a padlock icon appears to that line. I can now offset them, maybe by a distance of 50 mil. And now when I do this, hover over one line and press tab, I can offset all of them at once like that. Next thing to do, let's do 4 dimensions. One from this plane to this line, this plane to this line here, this other plane to this other line, and from this plane here to this other bottom line. They all report the same value now, so I can just select them and tie them all to the same parameter. Let's call this one frame depth or width. should be a type parameter as well. We can do OK. I can now do finish to finish the frame there. And if I go to 3D, I have the frame there. Obviously a bit too thick, so let's go back to reference level. And maybe change this extrusion end parameter to something else. How about 50? Now that looks a bit more realistic. Of course, the frame could be a bit thicker, so I can go to here now and change the frame width to maybe 75. For the extrusion end, I can also tie that to a new parameter. Now this one can be frame depth. Easy to do, type parameter, OK and OK again. Having those two parameters, that means I can go to here now and change the frame depth even to something smaller like 25, but that may be a bit too thin, so let's undo this. Next thing to create here will be the glass panel. Let's go back to the front elevation, do a second extrusion now, and this time again we can pick lines with the lock option selected 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We can now press finish, go back to 3D to check it, and that's our glass panel. Now of course right now it's massively thick, which is not right. Let's go back to the floor plan now and make it just a bit thinner, like so. This is still arbitrary though, let's control it in a better way. I will drop in here 2 different dimensions, one there and one here. Now these 2 dimensions, they should ideally report the same value, so let's tie them now to the new parameter called glass offset. OK now, and the rest of the thickness will be for the glass panel to fill. I can go to 3D again, turn on shaded mode, hide that little dimension there by category, and we have something more realistic than before. Anyway, to make it even better, we should give things here materials. Let's select the panel now, then go to material, click on this little button at the end of the line there. And let's see, you have a glass panel there already. That's good. Let's pick that and choose OK. One done, one more to go. The frame there, how about we do the same? And with this time, maybe we can duplicate this material now and call this frame. The color, let's do white. Looking nice. Make sure things are parametric, so I can go to this panel again, click on this button here, and tie that to a new parameter called glass material. The same happens for the frame. We can select the frame there, click the square button there, and say frame material should be the parameter driving this. Alright, that's all we have to do for the panel. Of course, you can go a bit more fancy and add in things like details, hinges, or even a handle somewhere here, but that will be for later. For now, let's get the core family working. One thing to confirm here is whether the glass offset is working, so let me just try and change that to 15. And for the frame depth, we know it's working, but I really want to just take it a bit up to 75. Oops, that's a wrong parameter. It should be frame width instead. Here we go. Let's now save this family. I can simply call it panel 1. Save it there. It's time now for us to load this family into the main door family. So let's do that now. And don't place it here in 3D. That's easier to be a mistake. Let's go to reference level. And here let's prepare to place that panel in. Before doing so, let's increase its width. That's a bit small for a glass folding door. How about we try 3 meters? Alright, next step, I can put in here a new reference plane somewhere over at this location. And let's drop in here a dimension between these 2. I can now call this one panel width. And make sure this time you create an instance parameter. Next step, we can place the panel family in here now. Go to Create and do Component. That's the one we just created before. Let's place it here. I can now align it to the right place. So press Tab now to highlight the reference plane and click here to bring it there. Second tab now on this direction. Here we go. Moving on, I can now select this component, go to Edit Type, and make sure to link this panel width parameter to the same one here in this family. Just like this. Here we go. For the next step, it's easier to just select this wall here and then hide it just by element. Because now I want to have the clear space to do my array. Let's select this panel now. Go to Array. Make sure you choose Linear Array. And then click 2 points to create the array. The first point should be this one here. And the second point where this plane intersects this plane. For the number of elements, let's start with 3. Oops, that was a mistake there. Let me undo this. There's something I forgot. So when you do the array, linear, try to select last instead of second, because we want to select and specify the location for the last item in this array this time. Other than that, the 2 points to click will be the same, from here to there, with 3 elements. Much better now. Before we forget, let's go to Align, and make sure this final panel will always be here, where we have this new plane. Looking good, isn't it? Even though we have these gaps between the panels. Let's take out these gaps now. And select this line with the number 3 on it. I can now turn that into my new parameter. Let's call this one panel count. And it should be instance. Click OK. We now need a way to relate this panel width parameter and this overall width of the door to the panel count that we have here. That's easy to do. I can now go to Family Types. And let's say the panel width should be the width of the door divided by the panel count. So panel width is there. Should be width divided by panel count. Just like that. Press enter now. I can see right away this number is now 1 meter and no longer 881. Let's do OK. And there you have them. 3 panels side to side. If you want to have more panels, as you may do later in the project, just go to the family properties and change this number now, panel count. Let's try 5 instead of 3. And that's very nice. I want to take this back to 3 just for ease of modeling. And we have 3 panels. Go to 3D now. They look quite nice. Next step, let's create the plan view representation of this folding door. To do so, we need to do a new family of the detail item category. Let's go to File, New Family again. And this time you need to go for Metric Detail Item. In here now, I can simply draw a rectangle. Starting from here, going up, just like that. Make sure to do 2 alignments now. One from this plane to this line, and the other from this one to this one. We can now drop in here 2 parameters, one to control that side of the rectangle, and one for control of this longer edge. I can now click on this and turn that into a new parameter. This one will be panel thickness. And this other one will be the panel width. Just like that. We can also give them some more realistic dimensions. Let's go to Family Types now. And this can be maybe 900. This one, I can try 50. Select all lines now. I can then turn them into hidden lines, because of course we will use them just for representing the door in plan views. Let's load this one into our main door family now. And now let's place it right there. Anyway, you know what? At this point, I realize we haven't modeled the frame of this door. If you go to 3D now, you actually never really have panels going straight to the wall like this. There should be a frame here between them, yeah? So let's make that happen now. Back to reference level. I need to now select this panel. Okay, so for some reason here my recording stopped for a few seconds. All I did at this step was created 2 new reference planes as highlighted here, and then moved the first panel in my array so that its left edge is aligned to the new reference plane on the left, and then use the align tool to lock that edge to that reference plane. And now the original video will continue. Because the total width of our panel is no longer this value. It is now the value between this plane and this one. Before using this, however, I want to make sure that this distance here on the left and this one here on the right will be fixed to another parameter. I can now call this parameter frame width. And they should always be the same value. Let's change the scale now to 1 to 10 because now it's getting a bit more busy in my view. That's much better. I now need to recalculate the panel width based on this new value. Let's go to family types now. And instead of using width, which is there 3 meters, I should do width minus 2 times my frame width. Just to get the value of 2 meters and 800 instead of 3. Put them in brackets to make sure that happens before the division and do OK. There you have them. This time, however, the last panel tries to reach the wall on this side, which is why we have here gaps between panels. We can fix that as well. Just click on this dimension, go to Edit Witness Lines, deselect this plane, and select this one instead. Click again, and now I should be able to change this to panel width. And now the problem is solved. We have now still the same 3 parametric panel array, but we have also space now for the frame. Let's put the frame in. I can go to exterior view and maybe adjust the door height a bit. As you can see now, the doors are clashing to the wall on top, so that's not good. Also, these 2 lines here from the template is a bit confusing, so let's select them now and delete. Now, to fix the height of our panels, we need to create now a new reference plane here. Crossing over like that. And make a dimension between the top and this new plane. And now call this one maybe frame width as well. This can be another value if you want to have a thicker width on top of the frame. But in this case, I will just use the same value anyway. Before moving on, don't forget we have another frame as well at the bottom of the folding door. So 1 new reference plane there and 1 new dimension like this. This one also, just for simplicity, I will also use frame width. But of course you can try to change that to a different value if you like. The good thing is now, because they are all 75, I can change them now or later with a single value change. Alright, it's time now to fix the panels. Let's tap select one of them now. Not the group, but tap to select the panel itself. I can now go to Edit Type and make a new parameter here to control the height of this panel. Let's call this one panel height. Oh, not from there, from here first, and then type in the name. Okay, this one should be a type parameter, so I can do OK, and then 2 more times. For the panel height, we need to work out what value we should get, and let's try that in family types here. It reminds me to save the family. Let's do that. Call this one folding door. Now, back to the family types window. Panel height is there. I want that to be height minus 2 times frame width and do OK. Suddenly our panels have updated, but I want to move them up as well, so their bottom edge should align to this new plane here. Let's try and do that. If I click on one group now, edit group, and get the panel itself, I can see the offset value there can be changed. But even better, I can just link it to the frame width parameter now. And suddenly I can see that has moved up. Click on finish. And now we got it. Or have we? Somehow the panel's top edge isn't reaching the right reference plane. Let's go back to family types to see what's going on. Okay, so it turns out that we have two very similarly named parameter. Frame width without a space in between, and this one with a space. We actually need to use the one with the space because that's the one here in elevation. The other one, we were using it for the plan view. That's why the value here is wrong. So all I have to do is put in here a space, and now that has increased by 50 mil. And that has fixed it for me. If I go to 3D, I can see there it's getting somewhere very nice. How about we go back to exterior to finish modeling the frame. For this I can go to create extrusion and pick lines with locking enabled. Do it 1, 2, 3, 4 times for this one. Trim lines to make a loop now. Finish. That's one frame done. We can now do the same for the left and right frames. Create extrusion again and keep picking the right things. May have to split it here so I can have separate profile rectangles. But then after that's done, the rest is easy. Just trim the right ones and you will have all those lines in order very soon. Finish again. And before we forget, let's put in here the bottom frame as well. So pick lines again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And trim lines again, just like we have done so far. Oops, I can see now the two vertical frames should be extended, so let's edit extrusion, unlock, and move them to where they should be. And then lock them there. Alright, let's do finish and check it out in 3D. Very nice, but a bit thick. So let's select the frames now and give them a more precise dimensions. How about 100? Actually, it could be a bit less than I want, so let's increase it again. But before we do so, let's go back to plan view and see if they are now of the right offset. Probably not. You can see there the frame is quite thick already, but it's starting from the center line of the panel. To fix this, we need to apply an extrusion start of 50. So sometimes you have to play with these numbers a bit, but after a while we'll figure out the dimensions and their direction, so we've done this. The frame width now is quite thick. Let's go back to here. Frame width is this one. And because we have this named very similarly to this other frame width down here, let's rename it so we won't get confused. Let's call this one frame depth. And maybe return that to 75 or even 50. Here we go, looking much better this time. If I go to exterior, that looks okay. If I go to 3D, looking nice as well. Alright, it's time now to try and change the number of panels. How about we change this from 3 to 5? Everything works, as you can see. It's now good time to go back to finishing our plan view representation of this door. So this item, let's place it here by locking there, and also here by locking here. Now, just like with the 3D panels, I need to array and copy this one according to how many panels I have in this door. That's easy to do, but to make you understand it a bit better, let me just increase the number of panels to maybe 5. Okay. With this family here, I also have to go to edit type now and link these two parameters with what I have in this main family. So for panel width, link it to the same thing with the same name. And panel thickness, how about, looks like we haven't got a parameter for panel thickness. So let's do this after this. But now you can see the width has changed to match what I have in the 3D panel. If I now select the 3D panel again, looks like frame depth is the one controlling how thick it is from here to there. If I try to change it to maybe 75, yeah, that's right. So this value, let's assign it to a new parameter in this host family. With the same name, maybe panel depth. And that same parameter I can use to control the depth of this 2D representation here. So this time, if I go to family types and change the frame depth to maybe, just for testing, 75, you can see there they both get thicker. So we're good to go. We can now copy this bland representation a few times. Let's now select it and do array again. This time we want to move also to the last element in the new array. So let's click here and then somewhere here, starting with 3 items. So the logic is this: we have 5 panels. The first 3 will be stacked nicely here to the corner, but then the other 2, we want them to form a 45-degree angle this way for the next to the last panel, and then the final panel should be going 45 degrees this way, just so we can show that these actually opens in that manner. To do so, we need to make a new reference plane right here and call this one the dimension from this plane to this plane. Let's call this stacked panel width. So this would be the total width, or more like depth, the total depth of these 3 panels once they are stacked to the corner. The value is now 292, but that should be calculated, of course. Let's go to family types now. Go to stack depth, and let's say we want this to be panel depth times panel count minus 2. Because the other 2 panels will be forming an angle on the right of this plane, and the rest should be on the left. That's why we take out 2 panels from this calculation. That's giving me 150. Let's see what that looks like. Of course, there's an error. This is simply because we forgot to make the stacked panel depth an instance parameter. But no problem, I can just change it here, and then the formula should work. Here we go. I can now be free to align this last panel in the stack to this plane. Just like that. You can even put in here some kind of a small gap between the panels, just so they look more like they are stacked, not glued together. So let's go to panel depth and maybe plus 5 mil. Make sure to get the brackets right and do apply. So with that, you have small gaps between them, making it a bit more realistic. Next step, we need to place in here 2 diagonal 2D panels. For this step here, I will try to isolate just a few key required elements. So 2 planes and 1 panel, maybe this one there. Let's do isolate element now. And with this, I want to select it, right click, and choose to create similar. This one now, I can just place it here and rotate it by 45 degrees. Here we are. It should be somewhere over there. Now to make sure it stays at 45 degrees, I should go to Create now and do a new reference line, starting from this intersection of the two planes and going down here at a 45 degrees angle. I can do the same, but this time going up by the same angle as well. Next step, we can do align and make sure that aligns to there and this to here. Before moving on, let's check if these two reference lines will work as I expect them to. Let's go to family types again. And this time, how about we increase the number of panels to 6. So they do work. Because now, as you can see, when this plane moves away to the right, these two diagonal lines will follow that and make sure our panel here at 45 degrees always moves where it should be. Let's undo this, however, and then draw in here a second reference line. Go to Create, go to Reference Line. This time, before I place it, I need to set the reference plane first by picking a plane and then pick this plane here. And then make sure we have, in this case, reference line. There we go. If I now go to family types again and change this to another number like 7, you can see wherever this line goes, this one will also follow. Even better, we can place in here a dimension like this, from here to there. And this dimension, let's make it the panel width. So I can now go to Create, Component. Actually, no, I should create the same thing as this one. So select it and do Create Similar. And I just rotate it to where I want it to be. In this case, let's place it here. And then do Align this way. And then align this way. Alright, now let's change the panel count again to 7 and maybe reset the view. Everything seems to work except from these 3 panels here. They are missing the other 2 in between them, but that's easy to fix as well. I can just select them like this, click on this line with the number 3, and let's say we want to add a parameter to this. Let's call this stacked panels count. Make it instance. If I now return to family types, for stacked panel count, I can simply say this one should be panel count minus 2. And now it gives me 5 instead of 3. In total, 5 plus 2 gives me 7 panels. If I now try to flex this, if I turn the number of panels from 7 to 5 now, and apply, we have now 3 stacked panels and 2 more at an angle, so everything works. At this point, the family is almost done. However, there's still one problem. Let me show you why. If I go back to family types now and change the number of panel to 3 and to apply, we will get an error. This is because for an array to work, it has to have at least 2 elements. But here, when the panel count is 3, stacked panels count is now 1, and that won't work. So we need to have a way to handle this kind of exception. So if this is 3, I can now put in here a conditional statement like this. Let's do if panel count is greater than 3, then I want this stacked panel count to get the value returned from panel count minus 2. Otherwise, I want it to get the minimum value, which is 2. So you can see there, that's 3. but now it's 2 because now this is working for an exception. Click OK now, and it should work. It's not very clean this time though, because here you have 2 panels overlapping. So depending on your case, it could be okay, or you may want to have just one only as visible in the plan view. In that case, simply go to family types again, and we need to turn this 5 mil here into a parameter. Let's make a new one. I can go for stacked panel offset, and that should be 5 mil. So now I can simply copy this name and put it here. So I can now do a second conditional statement here. If panel count is more than 3, then this will return the original value of 5 mil. Otherwise, take that to 0. And you can see straight away that is now 0 for us. Press OK. Of course, stacked panel offset needs to be instant as well. Let's change that to instance. And this time it should OK. Here we go. Now I have one single panel, but actually there are 2 there. They're just at the same place. Now you may ask me, what if we only have 2 panels in this door? Let's try that. If I go to here and change this to 2. Firstly, this one remains at 2, so it won't raise an error. This one is now 0, that's fine. If I do OK, you can see now the 2 diagonal panel representation here, they are now starting from the right point, this point here. But at this point, we don't really need to see these stacked panels because there should be none of them. I can just then open a group here, select one panel like this, and assign a visibility parameter to this one. Let's call this one stacked panel as well. And do OK. With that done, I can go to Finish and go to Family Types again. Look for the same parameter. Stacked panels is here and it's checked by default. That means you have these visible. Let's copy this condition here again. Let's do not. Or actually, let's just leave it like that. Press Enter. So you can see there, if panel count is more than 3, this condition will satisfy, and then this box will be checked for me automatically. But because here we have panel count less than 3, it is now invisible or untick. Let's do OK now. Of course, stacked panels has to be instant as well. Do OK. And at the first glance, you won't see much in here because we are now in the family editor. Let's try this. Let's try preview visibility on. And now you don't see those panels anymore. They are invisible if the number of panels is less than 3. If I now try to bring it back to 3, apply this. Actually, it's not appearing, so I might have to change this from more than 3 to more than 2. Apply this now. Now I see it. If I take it all the way to 7, I see more of them. If I take it back to maybe 2, I don't see them anymore. That's how it works. Okay, for a good preview of the family, whenever someone goes in here and edits it, I should change it to maybe 5. Just so, even though if they didn't make this family themselves, they can know that there's something there. It might just turn off in certain situations. Alright, before we finish this family, let's go to 3D. And make sure we have all the materials parameter also linked up. If I go down to somewhere here, or up there actually, let's call this one frame material. Just so we can control it later on in the project. And the same here, let's make the parameter called glass material now. The frame material parameter, I can actually use it as well to control how my other frames around the panels look like. So for material here, let's link them to frame material. And with that, the family is finished. Let's now try it in a project. I will just make a new project now from scratch, just to test it out. And maybe quickly just draw a wall here. Next step, go to the door family now and load this to the project. Number 1. I can now place it here. And let's see what this turns out. Well, this section here doesn't look so good because the angle is wrong. Let's go back to the family to fix it. So we forgot one step. We need to lock this angle first. So let me just select this line here and also this reference plane. Isolate the 2 elements now. And I can just now create an angular dimension between those 2. 45 degrees and lock it. That's the important thing. If I now just load this family back to here, you can see that the angle is now correct. Anyway, certain things are still not looking right. Firstly, that's my door panel, and that's the frame. They seem to have been separated. Let's fix it as well. I can go back to here and reset the view. And we need to have additional reference planes here to constrain the position of the frame. So let's put in here 1. And then another one there. I can name this one now external frame. And this other one, internal frame. Here we go. To make it easier for the next step, I can now select the frames and those 2 reference planes there. Isolate element again. And you guessed it, I can just start aligning things now. So this plane should be where this face is, as well as this face. Similarly, this plane should be where this face ends up, and same for this other one. Don't forget, we also have the frame on top, so we need now also the side elevation. Before going there, let me select those 2 planes, and then switch to the left view. They are still selected. I can now also control click to get the top frame there, and then isolate the selection. Next thing to do, same old command align once and then twice. Alright, let's bring this back now to the project. And very nicely, it has aligned with the door panel. Anyway, it looks like there's a blank plate there. I cannot see my panels. This is why, if I go back to this left view, this top frame here is showing in plan view. That's why it's blocking other things from showing up. We need to now select it like that. Go to visibility settings and uncheck the box for plan or seating plans. Load this one back now. And you should see a bit more this time. Yes, you do. However, the glass panels, I want to see that as well, not just the top of the panel itself. Let's go back here one more time. Select a group there, edit the group, pick one panel, visibility and settings. Let's check this now. Well, everything is ticked, but I have to also tick this box. It is not available to select yet, because this object's category doesn't permit ticking it. So the key is there. I need to change the category to something I can use. Let's do edit family on the panel now. Go to category and maybe change this from generic models to doors. Click OK and bring this back to the main door family, folding door. Overwrite it now, finish it now, and load it back to the project. There we go, looking very nice. Now you might see that these lines here, they are now solid, not dashed lines like we have in the family. But that's only because of the scale of this view. If I now change the scale to 1 to 50, you can see there, they are dashed now. If I keep going down like this to 1 to 5, that's what you have in a big detailed drawing. Anyway, if you like to see just the folded panels and not the actual 3D ones, you can do that as well. Just go back to the family, go to the group again, check this, visibility, and then untick plan RCP. Click on finish, bring it back, and override the existing. There we go. So with this, you can say it as an opening, not actual blocking panels. But maybe you may want to show the panels and the dashed objects. Entirely up to you. Everything should still look good in 3D, just like this. Remember, you can also download this family from the video description, so make sure to check there. Alright, if you enjoyed this lesson and want more like this coming every single week, make sure to subscribe to this channel now. For now, have a good day and I'll see you in the next lesson.